What is currently happening, programs? Today I'm going to cover off Skyrim VR. I'll run through the good, the bad, and the arrow to the face. So if you want to know if I think the virtual reality incarnation of this game is worth buying, again, then stay locked, enjoy, and you alright there, guy? Yes. No, still going. Skyrim isn't a new title, and you probably know if you even like this game or not already. So I'm going to focus on how well the game translates to VR, and if VR adds any extra value to this title to justify the price tag. From the moment I put on the headset and looked at the Skyrim logo in a room bigger than some full VR games, it was clear the game was about to lift my eyelids. Sat in a cart, winding down a bumpy track in shackles, and making actual eye contact with actual NPCs gave me an instant urge to know their stories, and I felt like we were all in this shit together. So off to a good start. Then this guy lost his mind, this guy lost his cool, and then the dragon came. Sorry if you didn't know that, but yeah, you've had like 7 years. Escaping the dragon's rage, I had an exhilarating sense of urgency and got a legit surprise when it bust through the wall and fired down like it had just railed a ghost chili. Everything was built to scale, and it was a crazy escape soaking up the party from inside Skyrim, instead of being a spectator through a flat window screen. The basic movement mechanics worked as I would have expected, though the button mapping was a bit unintuitive in places. Things like the shout button being in the same spot as you would instinctually expect the sheath weapons button to be meant that I kept on accidentally shouting at guards when I just wanted to put away my weapons and chat. I did use a simple controller remapping mod, which I'll link in the description to fix that, and now that Steam VR has added an input system where you can customize any controller how you like it, it's not a major issue, though it is still a default issue of the game. And user preference aside, I felt the controls could have been a little more considered, though us Rift users are lucky the touch controllers work at all. All the locomotion options under the sun were there, from full smooth locomotion to snap turning and teleport. There's a field of view filter that puts anywhere from a light haze through to a full-on tube effect around your vision to help reduce motion sickness. On that note, I found small spaces like caves a lot more sickness-inducing than open spaces, and there is no shame in using that field of view filter. You fucking puss, no shame at all. And amazingly, for the first time ever in a PC game, I could follow behind an NPC at the same speed. I mean, are you fucking seeing this shit? We're walking at the same speed. The same goddamn speed! In saying that, the limited sprint feature from the original game, which added sensibility in exploration and intensity in combat, meant that in VR I was physically on my feet for a lot longer than I needed to be. And given that this game is fucking huge, for that reason, I found the unlimited run mod almost essential for the VR version of the game. More on mods in a minute, but this is again something I felt could have been a bit more considered and flexible as a potential menu option. Navigating the menus was just tough, especially when compared to something like the Sky UI mod from the flat game. And if I were to be blunt, I actually thought it was a bit lazy just dropping the menu system from the flat game into the VR version of the game. What I would have at least expected to see is something like the menus from the Doom 3 BFG mod, which I covered in this video here, where I could touch the menus to navigate. And simple shit like going into inventory required 3 separate button pushes, or 1 push and a hold, and this could have easily been streamlined to 2 button pushes for VR. It definitely wasn't deal breaking, but needed some consideration. On a more positive note, looking up at skill trees was like looking from the ground up at a galactic root system. This sounds like an exaggeration, but it was trippy shit, and it made me want to explore the expansive skill system instead of just getting it over with. And this is a great example of how VR can elevate menial tasks. And if I could jump ahead for a bit, even the world map felt like I was really flying over Skyrim like a hawk. Not that hook though. The HUD menu in-game had a natural placement by default and was easily moved if desired. In saying that, it's very easy to get turned around in VR, tangle the cable and lose orientation. So a little room space forward icon on the HUD could have been beneficial as well. Holding a sword and shield felt substantial, and the perfect placement of these items in my virtual hands and ability to swing them realistically allowed me to substitute the generic flailing of the pancake version of the game with my own custom panic flailing. Some more realistic weapon collision would have been nice though, similar to what the team who developed Sirento did with their title. Blocking with the shield was instinctive, hard swings with weapons for the most part connected when they should, and overall the combat felt like an improvement while still remaining true to the original title. Bows were the star of the show though for me, after I'd enabled realistic bow mechanics in the menus, and aside from giving bandits who used to be an adventurer like me an arrow to the face, it was fun to just do dumb shit like fire them off into the moonlight. Even pulling arrows out of my shield and adding them to my inventory was evidence enough that real shots were fired, and this timber barrier had just recently saved my skin. In all fairness, archery in Skyrim was so enjoyable, I'd probably pay $20 just for that aspect of the game, especially when comparing it to similar games out now. Likewise, casting magic felt like a privilege I'd earned through real trials and tribulations, and having that power in my bare hands made me want to cast it constantly. And again, these are all examples where VR itself elevates the standard gaming experience. Also, if I stepped physically into an object, the game pushed me back a foot or two, and unlike some more indie titles, this effect wasn't overdone and didn't feel like a glitch. It felt intentional, and I was accepting of that from an immersion perspective, which felt considered. And while picking locks using analog sticks was still great, being able to do it with virtual hands could have been a small, simple thing to add to lift the experience that much further. Though fucking around with old mate Serious Hood and a spell tome was fun. Then, leaving the dungeons, there was the open world. Oh my lord. This is where the game truly opened up and the grandeur of Skyrim became a real virtual reality. Looking around, I wanted to explore. More accurately, I wanted to take my time and explore. I got to scan standing stones under the onlook of Bleak Falls Barrow, cast in the shadow of a scarlet moon. I overlooked the Jewel Falls leading into Riverwood before meandering down the stone path towards the tavern and beginning my quest for the Golden Claw. And that's just the first 20 minutes outside. It's apparent very early on that beauty is abundant in Skyrim if you know how to appreciate it. And it's VR that brings us to the table for the first time in a real, meaningful way, at least to me. Simple things like looking up at the snow falling into my mouth as I'm observed myself by aurora-like lights in the winter sky, or casting a distant view over Whiterun as the mountainous landscapes bear down on the city, letting it know it's an adolescent structure in comparison to their timeless existence, or watching a seemingly eternal eruption as I stood beneath creatures that have no name in my book of names but will remain unforgotten in my book of experiences. This is Skyrim, and I am here. The game's mechanics, its shortfalls, and even its shining moments are far outweighed by just being there in the world itself, compelled to move forward and make legend from a mortal frame. And aside from majestic scenery, on the gameplay side of things, quests felt more meaningful. Right, we're doing this again. Look at him go. When I rolled into the Riverwood Trader to nick some shit from the proprietor of the establishment, I was looked in the eye and asked if I could help retrieve the Golden Claw from Bleak Falls Barrow. I felt obliged. This person had asked me directly and I wanted to help. I never got this from the flat version of the game. I always felt like I was looking at some opportunist who wanted me to do them a personally unbeneficial favor. Sure, there would be reward, but I'd do it when I felt like it. In VR, I did it because someone someone had requested my service in their time of need. So I trundled up the mountain killing bandits. I took their weapons and clothes and left them dead, naked in the snow, to be preserved as a corpse until the summer months when the ice mounted, the wolves feasted on their meat, and their bones were taken back by the weeds. Alternately, taking a female's items, leaving them exposed in underwear, felt confronting and indecent. Until I remembered that attacked me, so fuck that slut. I didn't think about this kind of shit when playing the game on a flat monitor. I snuck up on 2 bandits and disposed of them by the firelight, worked my way through the dungeons, solved the bear claw puzzle, and felt accomplished as the stone door opened up in front of me, heralding my completion of the quest. And for a person who has such shit direction and gets consistently lost in open world games, in VR, I clearly knew my way back through the cave systems because I'd literally just been there in person. Again, VR elevating the experience. And after a hard day's questing, it was genuinely relieving to roll up on an inn and rest my weary bones because I'd actually been on my feet for the past 4 hours straight. And on top of all that, killing those winged motherfuckers had me looking for a spot to put a foot up and stand triumphantly over their dissolving ashes. Madness. Graphics wise, all of this was enhanced by one simple thing. Jeez. Yeah. Bit much. Which brings me to mods. If you're not using mods with this game, then you're missing out on a crucial aspect. Skyrim has been out for 7+ years now, and the modding community is the sole reason this game is still sold and discussed at length to this day. Even though mods aren't officially supported by Bethesda, if you're not using sound enhancing, visual, and physics-based mods, then you're not playing the full version of this game. Modding is dead simple to do and free, and I have a top 10 Skyrim VR mods video up here that will show you step by step just how easy it is. So click the link on screen now or check the description. Performance wise, I have an i7-7820X CPU, a GTX 1070 graphics card, and 16GB of DDR4 RAM, and I cranked the game settings to high, ran all the mods from the top 10 video, and applied 1.2 super sampling in the Oculus debug tool, which is about the equivalent of 150% super sampling in Steam VR. And the game barely dropped the frame and maintained 90 FPS around 90% of the time, which was excellent. Looking at performance, this game shits all over Fallout 4 VR, so if your PC struggled to run that, or you have a lower spec VR PC, then Skyrim VR will be a much better fit. So where does this game stand right now? Well, after all the forced wandering, the menu gripes, the minor shortfalls of this game's translation into VR, I have to ask myself, was it all worth it? Of course it fucking was. Clipping issues aside, shitty non-VR menus aside, little niggles and big niggles aside, this is hands down the best VR RPG to date. And after traveling to Tamriel firsthand, I'm giving this game an 8 out of 10. Get in line to dine in Skyrim. Older games like Skyrim and Doom 3 translate so well to VR, and they outline that even in VR, games don't need the sharpest, most cutting-edge graphics to be great. They just need smooth performance and great gameplay to be great. And the modern retro feel they have going on is already enjoyably nostalgic. And while a little more consideration and optimization on the VR translation of this game would have easily made this a solid 9, Skyrim VR has charm in the way it disconnects you from the physical limitations of virtual reality and complements it. And it rewards you with experiences you just won't find in any other VR title to date, and by default, any game to date. That is, provided you are willing to accept the world. Stop being so analytical about every little technical aspect and just let go. Use a little imagination like you did when you were a kid and build upon that framework to appreciate the hypnotic sights that are there to be revered. I only played 20 hours of the flat game because I didn't find clear direction and I didn't connect with the characters, so the story didn't drive me, but the VR version did. I felt compelled along the paths to do all the little side quests, and for the first time ever, I enjoyed them, and I enjoyed meeting people, admiring the sights, and growing as a character because it was all too fantastically real. So if you like RPGs, you like dragons and shit, and you have a PC VR headset, then this game is 100% worth your time, again, in my opinion. And that's it for this review. You can help support this channel by grabbing exclusive rewards on Patreon, and if you like this video, then crush that like button, have your say in the comments below, and hit the EXO logo to subscribe if you wanna. I'll see you in the next one. Peace!